Welcome guys. So in this tutorial I'll be showing you how I made that Bubu gown. So these are the folded pieces I'll be using for my design. So those two straight pieces will be on the side of the neck, while that folded trapezium shape would be on the down part of the neck, and this fringe would be on the down part of that folded trapezium. So what I will do is I'll fold the fringe on the edges before I make my stitch. So let me just show you an overview of what everything will look like after we are done working. So the way it works is you place the fringe first, you fold the edges, then you place that folded trapezium shape on it, and those folded pieces would be on top like that. And this is just an overview of what the design would look like when we are done. So let's go straight to the making process of the Bubu gown. So let's start from the beginning. From the beginning, the first thing you do is to fold your fabric into two, considering the measurement of your back and your sleeve. So if your back is 10 and your sleeve is 10, you fold 20. Then you add extra 2 inches for the folding of the edge of the sleeve. Then you fold into two just to show you the length of the gown, because my camera won't catch the full length if I open it straight forward like that. That's why I folded into two. So if your length is 40, after folding into two, you should be getting something like 20. And that's that. So for the neck, we'll be working with a 3x3 neck from the beginning. So I'll be making my 3x3 neck just to show you I got the neck from an actual normal neck. So but this is not a normal neck. So what we'll do is we'll add 1 to the side and 5 to the down part. That is, the initial neck was supposed to be 4x8. So then I'll add a 3/4 inch horizontally on the down part. Then I'll make a straight line from that 3/4 inch point to the 4 inches mark. And I'll make sure the line is as straight as possible. After obtaining that line, I'll just make a cut. I'll cut from the neck part to the down part like that. For the shoulder slant, it's either you take your 1 inch slant before you do your folding like this, or you actually make your folding of the edges of your sleeve before you take your 1 inch mark. So after taking your 1 inch mark, you'll make a straight line from that point to the edge of the neck, and that will be your slant. It is actually better for you to slant your shoulder line than just leaving it straight, because when you slant your shoulder line, it relaxes well on your shoulder. After getting our slant, you can also work on your sleeve, but before you work on your sleeve, you just take your hip measurement first. So from the top, you take 22 inches and you mark. So horizontally from that 22 inches mark, you take your hip measurement divided by 4. So when you take your hip measurement divided by 4, you add as much as 4 or 5 inches. Then you take that measurement all through. So what you got, you take it to the chest, but for the chest, you mark 10 inches from the top. Then you make a line just to indicate that 10 inches mark. Then you transfer that same measurement to that point and you mark as well. After folding the edges of the sleeve, you can just follow the chest measurement and mark, or you can reduce for your sleeve measurement. So I marked 9.5 instead, and I made a curve to that chest point, and I'll follow that chest measurement, which is exactly the same with the hip measurement and the down line measurement. So you just make your straight cut from that point, straight like that. So you transfer that hip measurement to the down line as well. We are actually done with the Bubu cut. We'll go straight to the design. So I'll be placing my folded pieces on the side. My folded pieces after folding into two are 1/4 inches wide, and I'll make sure they are longer than that V shape. Then I'll make a half-inch stitch on the edge. So after making my half-inch stitch on the edge, I'll be notching the diagonal edges. So I'll notch the diagonal edges, but I'll make sure the notch is not longer or farther than the stitch, so the notch will not actually catch the stitch. So I'll make my bendings like that, then I'll sew on the edge of the fabric. So the sewing I'll make on the edge of the fabric after turning it like that would actually hold the black piece down. So I'll arrange everything like that. Then I'll make my stitches on the edge of the fabric to hold that inner sewing, that inner ½ inch excesses down. So after doing that, I'll press with my pressing iron. Then I'll place the down trapezium shape piece on however position I want. You can always arrange that piece anyhow you want. Then I'll place the fringe underneath it like that, folding the edges like I said I would. Then I'll make my stitch. So after stitching that V shape on the edge, I would also stitch the trapezium all around. So we are done with that. We are done with the creation of the front piece. So the next thing I will do will be to go to my pressing iron and press. But I want to finish this work before I do anything pressing, because this is actually a Kampala fabric. Your hands can actually arrange the fabric however way you want. So I'll fold into two just to make sure the neckline of my front piece is actually well aligned, and I'll cut the longer one to be exactly the same size with the shorter one. So we are done creating the front piece, and I'll be going straight to the creation of the back piece. For the back piece, I already folded it into two as well. Then I'll place the front piece folded into two on the back piece. I'll make a neck cut, and this time I'll cut to ½ inch away from the end of the neck of the front piece. But before I do anything, I'll be making use of pins to actually hold it down, because I want both the front and the back piece to be exactly on the same line. If both are on the same line, your neckline would be as perfect as possible. So I'll just use my pins to hold it down like that. So I'll hold it down on the top, and I'll also hold it down on the downline, and that is exactly how I'm going to get my neckline to be as perfect as possible. So for the neckline, I'll just arrange like that. Then I'll make my cut ½ inch away from the edge of the front piece neck. Then I'll come down as deep as 1 inch, and I'll make a cut to that ½ inch away point I actually started from. Then I'll follow the slant of the shoulder exactly the way the front is, and I'll cut from the beginning of that neckline to the end of that shoulder line like that. After doing that, I'll go straight to the cutting of the body of the back piece as well. So I'll follow the cut from the downline up until the cuff part of the sleeve, and I'll make my cut all through like that as well. So what I'll just do is I'll follow that curve to the end, and when I'm done cutting, I've succeeded in creating both the front and the back piece. Only for the back piece, we still need to work on the neckline. So what we'll do now is to make the turning of the neckline of the back piece. So you look for a piece like that and you fold into two. So after folding into two, you place the back piece on that piece you folded into two, making sure the folded line of the back piece and the folded line of that piece is the same. Then you trim to make sure the shoulder slant is the same with that of the folded piece, and you also cut the neckline of that piece to be the same with that of the back piece. For the piece you use in turning your neck, you can also use a black piece, and that will be a form of a design if you use a black piece. So instead of this fabric, you can also use a black piece, and that is if you want it to show on the outer part. But for this will be showing only on the inner part of the gown. So what I'll just do is I'll place it on the right face of the back piece of the Bubu gown, then I will sew on the neck all through. I will notch, then I will turn to the other side. After sewing, you will make your notch all through. So you just make sure your notch doesn't touch your sewing line. So after notching all through, it becomes very easy for you to just turn to the other side. So we've turned it to the other side, then we'll be fixing the front piece and the back piece together. So to join the front piece and the back piece together, the first thing I will show you is how to measure your head size. So you just take a measurement from that top like that, from the back to end to the other back end. Then what you got, you start from the front, then you continue with what you get again to the end. And after you got all that, you will minus 2, and that will be your head size. So just for you to know if your head can penetrate through what you are sewing. So to join the front and the back, you place the front in between that folded piece and the back piece, and when you are done, you fold the downline of that folded piece and stitch all through. But before that, we will go straight to the workings of the fixing of the front and the back piece. So to fix the front and the back piece, you place the front piece in between that piece and the back piece. Then you close both up, making sure the front piece is what is in between. So like I said, you fold the edges of that piece, then you make your half-inch stitch from the beginning like that. So you make that stitch all the way to the end of the sleeve. So you do that for the left side of the shoulder, and you also do the same for the right side of the shoulder. Like I said, you fold that edge of the piece, then you place in between like that, making sure the front piece is in between the back piece and that folded piece. Then you sew from that neck position to the end of the sleeve. After sewing the shoulder line, the next thing is to sew the folded pieces downwards. So you fold the edges of the folded pieces and you sew downwards to the back piece. After you're done folding, you just sew on the edge like that, from one shoulder point to the other shoulder point. Then you close it up. After closing it up, you go straight to the sleeve. For the sleeve, it totally depends on the allowance you gave for the folding of the sleeve. If you gave 2 inches allowance, what this means is you bend half inch and the remaining folding would be 1.5 inch. So you make your stitches on the edges of the half inch bending you actually did. Then when you are done stitching on the edge of the bending, you fold into 2 on the back side like that. Then you make your sewing from that sleeve following the curve to the downline. When you get to the downline, you fold however much you want and you sew on the edge as well.